Hello, everyone. Mark Isaac Potter, and the show is called Mark Isaac Potter Presents. Today, I'm going to be talking to you myself about one of my new clients. And like I've said before, most people do my show for free, about 85%, I think. So, this person has given me permission during one of the shows we recorded to talk about that I find interesting that we talked about. Let me set my timer here too. I usually forget this. Uh, her name is Disanka Jonin. You can, of course, when I get them put up, you can find her shows on the website, on my website, which is youtube.com at Mark Isaac Potter, all one word. Let's see. So she does coaching. She has a company called momentumcoach.online. And she does coaching for mostly for businesses. She does individual and team coaching. And she she looks at several different things, metrics. She looks at how grief, for example, is one of the four we talked about. She looks at grief as something that can cause lower performance at work. And that fascinated me because how do you introduce, some altered form of grief counseling, if you will? It's not really, it's much more extensive, but you get the idea. How do you introduce that to an employer? How do you convince an employer that the problem they're having with performance of a person or a team can be alleviated to some extent by having a coach come in and coach them in regards to the grief in their life? That's fascinating to me. And that whole thing is a metaphor or a template to me, in my opinion, for how you get a company to uh, take on a new way of doing things. And by that I mean this: this person's in Canada, but I'm in the United States. I'm obviously an old man. Uh, Most of the employers I had during my lifetime, which was many, would just simply either be happy with your performance or they would let you go. It was pretty strict, pretty cut and dried, very binary. But somehow this very well educated young lady has been able to introduce, the concept of grief as a performance impediment. And she's been able to do that with employers by realizing what they're concerned about is the bottom line, and when this person underperforms we lose money, etc. But still she's brought it into the workplace, and so she's bringing in something that's relatively new to the workplace, some new idea, and employers are accepting that notion, that idea, that I don't like to use all the tag terms like metrics, but all the things that go with it. And I've never, well, I had maybe one maybe one employer who would have considered such an idea out of, I don't know, 20 or 30 employers, maybe. So it just fascinates me. So that way of doing things, how do you introduce something new that is nurturing for your employees to an employer? And of course, there are companies that do open their minds to nurturing their employees to the point where they're more productive. And that has gotten a lot of press, but I think the press has been disproportionately large to what people what's really going on in the marketplace. Most employers, in my opinion, still to this day, 2025, would rather pay the higher extra expense of simply firing someone and rehiring someone else than they would to invest in any form with any one employee. Uh, that's my feeling. So I'm fascinated with what's that mechanism that one would use to interject or begin to introduce some new, relatively nurturing social concept into a for profit business. How do we do that? I know you emphasize the bottom line, of course, but there's got to be more to it. And I asked Sanka that, and she was a little, well, in my perception, my perception was she was a little surprised because it's happened so naturally the way she does things. The companies she works with have, it seems like, seamlessly and readily accepted her ideas, and they like what she does, and they have improved their bottom lines with using her process and services. So it can be done. I just don't. I wish I were in touch with a sociologist. Uh, and I'm thinking maybe I can find a sociologist at a university or college or community college campus somewhere that could weigh in on this topic because it really does interest me. So anyway, that's that. Uh, I'm more calm today than I was yesterday. So I want to say that I do love you guys very much. I've been doing this many, many years, and I love interacting with people, learning new things. Uh, so thanks for watching, and you guys have my phone number more than likely, 408 209 3092. 408 209 3092. All right, talk to you soon. Please take care. Thank you. You guys know I turn my head to sign off.